All right, just a quick space update here for the new space out in the garage. As you can see here, I was able to move that air conditioning unit from the bottom of the window up to the top. And that's important because I'm gonna set the layout height awfully close to the bottom of that window. So I needed to clear the area where the vent blows or sucks air out, and then in the top where it blows the cold air back in. I didn't want that just up against the backdrop, not to mention that was gonna rob me of a couple of inches of space between the surface of the AC unit and the wall. So that's one big hurdle crossed. And this wasn't a hurdle so much as just one other thing I did while I had a buddy over to help me with the AC unit. I moved another desk we had in the house down here to be sort of part of the future workbench. And the Coke fridge is also gone. That's sold. So with the Coke fridge gone, I was able to slide that fridge that way, and there's still a little bit of room there. And I've got a little bit of room between the fridge and this desk now to work with. But from the edge of there to that wall, I might have enough room. I have a much smaller desk that I'm currently using as my workbench. I may have enough room to move that down here as well and do a little bit of an L-shaped arrangement. And then with the layout again, level up there, the plan would be to run a track with a very thin track coming out of the yard going this way to then curve and come back towards us, towards the peninsula. Be very narrow shelf, but up above that plug. So I'd have plenty of room for shelving and to work under the layout and lighting and all kinds of stuff there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking and what the space is looking like. So progress is being made, albeit a little bit slowly. Summer's a hard time to get stuff done with kids who swim and just lots of activities, vacations and whatnot. All right, so lessons learned. Here's the first one. This drop gate. I won't do this again. I know there are folks out there who have done this successfully. Do not count me among them. Now, this end of it, where the hinge is perfectly fine. That's a nice clean joint. I've not had any issues there. But as I come down to this end, a couple of things. One, I don't advise using the foam, and I did that to kind of match the levels because I had a 1-inch foam basically as the base for the whole layout. So I'm matching levels and using that. I wouldn't recommend that because that means the track has more play than you think it should with lining up. You can see where I used nails to try to hold the rails in place. And these ones down on this end have fared better than over here. And you can see this track in particular is just a mess. So if I put this down, and this is just, my own finicky, whatever, the way my room is set up. As I walk past here, pants leg, a pocket, whatever, would catch on these rails, especially here on the corner. So you trim them back a little bit to avoid that. Well, then you end up with a big gap and catch it anyway. And you can see where this rail has ripped off of there multiple times. I've tried to super glue it, fix it. Now this whole rail is bent. So this is no longer a through track. That's not working. The other ones, again, like I said, at this end fared better. But, with nail heads in there trying to hold the rails together, I'm sure there's better ways to do it. But honestly, let's just be real here. I'm not a very good carpenter, and a lot of model railroaders are, but I'm not one of them. And so I think the lesson here for me is no drop gates, but in a broader sense, it's kind of know your own limits. For me, carpentry isn't my strong suit. So something like this was bound to cause problems, and so on my new layout, I will not have a drop gate. Instead, it's just going to be a duck under, and it's going to be up chest high, so it won't be that big of a deal to just duck under one little area to get inside the layout. All right, lesson 2 for me, and this might sound like I'm contradicting myself, but challenge yourself. So lesson 1, know your limits, but 2 is challenge yourself. So this right here is one of my favorite parts of the layout right now. And what this scene is a field made out of teddy bear fur. And I'd seen it done. I'd never done it myself. I've obviously added a bunch of other textures and stuff to it, but I have never done this before. I saw some videos, read a little bit about this technique, thought it sounded cool, so I challenged myself to do it. You know, again, I've said this before in videos, what's the worst that can happen? Well, it doesn't work out and you tear it out and try again. So I'd say lesson 2 is challenge yourself. All right, we're over in Manchester for the next one, and that is to have, instead of many small industries that can take a car or two, have a couple of fewer larger industries that can take multiple cars. And to me, that just looks a lot more realistic than a tiny building that's hardly worthy of a full, you know, carload of materials. So I would say, as I grow, I'm going to keep this section just because it was my original layout, and I just like having it around, and it is fun to switch. That for the remainder of the layout, I will have industries more like this, longer, bigger. Obviously, can take a couple of cars, versus small industries like this that, you know, may warrant a car every now and again. So that's lesson 3. All right, and we're over here in South Yard to talk about the 4th takeaway for me, and that is to increase train length. I like, you know, a local here and there with a single engine, 5 cars and a caboose is prototypical for a local, but my through trains, my, you know, manifest, that kind of stuff, that should have multiple locomotives. You know, I can probably get away with 12 or more cars, but oftentimes this scheme lent itself to 7 or 8 cars. The yard can hold, you know, most of these tracks can hold 10 or 11 cars, and that's it. So the next layout will be, you know, the yard is going to be extended down on that end, and there will be more running room, etc., for longer trains. I'll have longer passing sidings, etc., because I just think that looks a little bit more realistic and certainly gives you a bit more to switch in the yard. And the last thing I'm going to take away from this layout as I move back to the creek scene area, which I really like, is to have a little bit more open running, have a little bit more space between things. It's a great place to just watch trains run, but as you can see here, and this isn't even that long of a train, that one train fills up this entire scene. And some of that's just, you know, we have to compress for model railroading, and I get that, but I want to have more spaces like this where trains can just run. Not necessarily continuous run, but just have the illusion of a little bit more space between scenes. All right, so there you have it. That's my takeaways from sort of phase 1 of my layout, version 1. And I thought it was a good time to kind of talk about those things as I'm planning and preparing to move everything down for phase 2 in the new space. And yeah, there's a tote, getting ready to start loading cars in there and getting them out of here so I can start moving things. So anyway, I hope everyone is well and safe, and we'll talk to you all later.